that we're all here. I know a lot of that stuff was a little serious or somber, but whenever I do stuff like this, I really, I'm a producer. I've been producing for a long time, right? But like, I feel like a lot of the value that I can impart on you guys is not from the technical side and a lot more from the mental side, because choosing music as a career is not easy. And it's just as much about understanding how to be a musician and a producer as much as it is being a good producer. Um, which I guess is exactly what I was about to talk about. I know myself really well. Musician's mentality, right? I would argue that the most important thing that I got from going to a school like Icon Collective was not anything technically. They taught me a lot about the producer that I am. They gave me a lot of the crazy, fundamentals to teach myself how to be an awesome producer. Not that I really am, but that's another point. But there was a class called Art of Flow, which really taught you how to think as a musician and a creative person. And that was really the class that helped me open up my eyes and be like, okay, like I don't have to compete with this person and that person, and I don't have to make one kind of music, and I don't have to do things the way that they were done before, because like I am who I am, and as long as I do exactly what I'm supposed to do, then I'm in my own lane, and no one else is going to be able to touch that. And that's the most important concept. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you have the opportunity to go to Icon or talk to Chris Wright, who developed the Art of Flow, it's life-changing shit. But the most important thing I can tell you guys from it is like to stay in your own lane. And I don't mean don't experiment with other genres or, anything like that. It's really like find what makes you unique as a musician, as a brand, whatever it is, and just go that way and do whatever it is that makes you you. And don't worry about, oh, that person's popping off over there. I should go do something like that. Like for a current, example, the whole mid-tempo wave right now is crazy. There's people like Rez, 1788L, all these guys that are making incredible, like a renaissance almost of like the Gesaffelstein, Bradinsky, the whole kind of like French mid-tempo thing that happened, 8 or 9 years ago, I think. I don't know. It's been a while. But it could be really easy to be like, oh, so this kind of music is happening and it's going really well, and there's all these people that are doing this awesome stuff, and it's still new and it's fresh. So if I kind of transition myself over there, maybe I'll make it. But if you're already like, if that's the thought process you're having, you're already too late, if that makes sense. And not only are you already too late, but it's not what you actually want to be doing. So you're not going to make it as well as anyone else. And even if it sounds good, it's still not going to feel natural. You know what I mean? So I guess that's kind of my point, is like you just have to write the music. And this is what I try to tell myself every single day when I'm in the studio, because I've been doing this, again, for 6-7 years from the producer side. And especially at this point in my career, all I can see around me are the other people that are, the people above me who are slowing down, the people below me who are speeding up. And it's really hard not to judge yourself against those people. But the second you start is when everything goes downhill. The second you're like, oh, this guy is doing something that's really popping and cool, like I should do something like that because, I'm way bigger than them. And like, if I did it, people will like it. Like, that's how you lose. So it's like the entirety of my career, all I've tried to do is exactly what I want to do. And sometimes that's making house music, like, rock the party, feel the volume, or whatever. Sometimes that's bass music, like dubstep, drum and bass, whatever. Sometimes it's more melodic stuff. But I never plan it around, if something is happening in music that coincides with it. Because I made the Jauz project. I made all these different kinds of music. So people expect all different kinds of music from me, and that's why I did it that way. Is so that, if I'm feeling like making house music, I can. And if, a month later I want to make crazy heavy shit, I can. And that's kind of how I've tried to navigate this, crazy, I mean, with technology and with the way that everything is right now, music literally flips a cycle like every 3 months in our world, at least. In pop music, it's probably a little bit longer than that, but I would say every 3 to 5 months, there's a new crazy trend that's happening that every kid is obsessed with, right? Whether it's rhythm, mid-tempo, before that, future bass, hybrid trap, bass house, so on and so forth. And it's like there's going to be even more of those happening even faster. So trying to hop onto a wave or even guess the next wave is like you're just already losing. So like even if you're doing something that sounds like something that's already been done, as long as you're doing it the way that you do it and not the way that everyone else does it, I don't want to say every single person will be successful, because I don't want anyone to come to me and be like, you promised me, you promised. But seriously, like as long as you, work as hard as you can, at the beginning, get your 10,000 hours in, and just fully commit yourself to your craft, and are as unique in you as you can be, I don't see why everyone in this room can't be successful. It's that simple. And I'm sure it sounds, I understand that being the person standing up here saying that to you guys is like, well, yeah, of course you think it's possible. You're here and we're there. I get it. But I was also there, like not that long ago. And I was just a normal ass kid. So, and I tell kids this literally every time I meet them, and they're like, you're the reason I went to Icon, you're the reason I started making music, whatever, which, by the way, still really weirds me out, because, like, I still feel like I'm, like, 18, and this is, like, my first year doing this. But every time I hear something like that, I say, if I can do it, you can too, because literally I was just like every single one of you guys. I had no crazy musical training. I had no, full disclosure, I have one relative in the music industry. Where is he? This guy right here with the beanie, Brandon, was a VP at Atlantic Records, and then he was a VP at a rival agency to the one that I actually signed with. And the entirety of the beginning of my career, when I finally started really making things happen, he was like, let me help you. Like, what can I do? How do I, like, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, Brandon, I appreciate you and I love you, but like, I don't want to be that, Jewish kid who got into the music industry because of his Jewish cousin who's in the music industry. You know what I mean? Like, it's like kind of a stigma. But, Jew jokes aside, although there are a lot of us in the music industry, I won't lie. More than that, it was just like I didn't want to be, like every time I was handed to someone, it's like, oh, he's, Brandon's cousin. Like, you should really pay attention to him, because they're not going to. Like, the second that you have someone vouching for you before anyone's heard of you, it like takes something away from the, from the legitimacy, I guess, of your brand. And so I was like, look, like once I get things off the ground and like I'm doing things on my own, if we get to work together, that's amazing. But like I can't ask you for help at all right now. And I'm really glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have ended up here. I'm like 100% convinced. Last two things, I'll make them really quick, because I know I've probably been talking way over the time limit I was supposed to have, but that's okay. Working hard, not smart, art of simplicity, they're basically the same thing. Once you've put in your 10,000 hours, which if you don't know what that is, it's kind of a concept that you can't master anything until you've worked on it for 10,000 hours. And I've tried to do the math of how many days for how many hours for how many years that would have to be, and I've never really figured it out. It's just a lot. Like, it's a lot. And you have to do that. You have to work so hard that you're not actually making good music. You have to work so hard that you're not sleeping. You have to work so hard that, blah, 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 whatever. And then you get to a certain point and you can kind of feel it like in yourself where you're like, okay, I actually know how to do this now. And like at a level where like I feel, like I'm actually confident enough in my abilities to make music that, like when you first start out making music and producing, whatever you hear yourself making, you think is the best and just as good as everyone else out there. Because you're just so excited that you're able to make music at all. And once you can start to tell that other people's music who are out there doing it is actually better than yours, and why it's better is probably when you're ready, if that makes sense. Because like until you can be like, okay, like my drums don't sound like that, or like my song structure isn't right, or whatever it is, that's when you've unlocked that kind of like master code, and you're like, cool, I get making music now. From that point on, don't push yourself. And that's just my personal experience talking. But nowadays, like if I work in the studio for an hour and I can't get anything going and I'm starting to get a headache and I'm just stuck, like I stop. I go hang out with my wife and my dog. I go play video games most of the time. That's what I really do. Or some days I wake up and I just don't feel like making music at all, and I don't push myself to, because you're not going to get anything good done. Like you can do constructive things, look for new samples, organize your samples, maybe screw around on Massive or something and make some cool patches, whatever. I don't do any of that stuff, by the way. I don't. You guys should, and I'm telling you, I'm giving you this advice because it's good advice, but I also do none of it at all. I'm super lazy. My sample organization is horrible. I literally, like, I'm writing a song and I'm like, oh, it needs to sound like this, and then I'll go and make that sound, and it's honestly the worst way to do it. I would not suggest that anyone makes music the way that I do, because it's really painful. Sometimes it all works out. I'll get into that in a little bit. But seriously, like, don't push yourself off a cliff trying to work so hard on music that like you're, not actually getting to enjoy life. And I know that's super contradictory to what I said before, where you're like, I'm basically telling you not to enjoy life and to give all that stuff up. But once you've, given, that full dive and you've kind of sacrificed everything in your life for music, once you get to a point where, things are happening, or you feel, you're at that level, whatever it may be, you also have to go enjoy life to be able to make good music. And I know, even the words coming out of my mouth I just like, it's literally like the polar opposites, right? And you just have to find a balance of basically those two completely separate suggestions that I gave you and figure out what works for you. Because basically, I can only give advice that I've experienced, and this is exactly what I experienced. I sacrificed everything, made the full dive, worked so hard I couldn't, see straight, whatever. And then I got to a point where I realized that I had to slow down and treat making music the way that I did when I was 14. Where it was like, if I wasn't having fun making music, I wasn't making music, Like, it is my job, for sure. And hopefully for all of you guys, it's your job, or it will be your job. But if you treat it like a job, like a 9 to 5 that you have to go do, you're going to start hating it real quick. And if you hate making music, how are you going to make good music? It's like really simple. Like if you're having fun and you're enjoying it and you're really excited about it, it'll probably end up being good. And if you hate it and just want to get it over with so that you can put it out and, make some more money, it's probably going to suck. So that's my, okay. So one more thing on the simplicity note, and I'll touch a little bit more about it when I open up a project. And this is more of a technical thing, not so much a mental thing. Everyone is super worried, especially at the beginning of making music, that you have to, layer all your synths, put all these different things in there to make it, exciting and, whatever. But like, I've literally written a song with 11 tracks, like 11 tracks. It didn't end up that way. I think the final track count was probably more like 23, let's say. But like, I was happy with the entire song. start to finish with 11 tracks. And that's including a track for drums, a track for hi-hats, a track for snares. Like 6 of those were just drums. You know what I mean? So it's like you can literally make a great song with nothing. So, and again, this is something that I learned at Icon that helped a lot, but it's like back then I didn't get it. They were like, you want to work this way and not this way. I was like, that's stupid. Then the whole song sounds like it sucks. But like once you start making music the right way and you like build a song out from start to finish and you write it like a song instead of a track, you can like actually write things you're super happy with without having to put a ton of shit in it. But then also you want to make stuff exciting, so you can go back once the song is written, you know, add some effects and, you know, do some automation or whatever it is. But like at the end of the day, like if you know, let's say you're on a new computer and all you have is Ableton Suite, right? So you don't have any VSTs, you only have like 20 samples or whatever it comes with. Like you could still make as good of a song as if you have all this crazy stuff that you've spent 4 years downloading or buying or whatever. My personal studio setup at home is a pair of 4-inch monitors, 4 inches, like that big. No sub frequencies cut off at 40 hertz. I use my headphones to mix my subs. I have a couple MIDI keyboards. I have a sound card. I have an incredible AKG microphone. Shout out. If you didn't know, Harman not only owns JBL, but they also own AKG that make incredible headphones and microphones. I got you. No, seriously, the mic is really sick. And the mic is probably the most expensive piece of equipment I have in my entire studio. The point is, I'm successful, right? I make a living making music and touring, but I don't have a $300,000 studio. I don't even have a studio. It's like a little part of one of my apartment's lofts that I've cornered off into a studio. But the most important part about it is that I'm comfortable in it. I like going there every day. I like making music in it. I've had expensive studios. I've had expensive gear. And none of that contributes to making better music. Literally, like, whatever place you need to be in to make yourself, you know, happy to work, that's all that matters. Like, you can figure out mixing later. You can figure out, you know, whatever. You don't need outboard gear. You don't need anything. You need a laptop and, like, your brain to work right. And really, all you really need is your brain to work right. You don't even need a laptop necessarily. So I guess my point is, before we, you know, finish this part of it, is don't worry about, you know, what kind of monitors you have or what kind of headphones or what kind of synths or what samples you have or whatever. Like, that's all exterior bullshit. Pardon my French. Like, you literally just, you know, need whatever you have on you in the moment and you'll write a cool song. Because, like, a cool idea pops into your head when you're in the shower or whatever, and you're not thinking about some sample that you have saved on a hard drive. It's like you have a melody in your head, or you're like, oh, the vocal should say this, and like I can hear the chords, and I can hear everything, or I can hear this drop that sounds like this. You can make all that stuff happen with literally nothing. And I'm done. Yay! I'm done talking, don't worry.